So let me start by telling you that I dislike cake donuts. I like other types of donuts, any of the yeast donuts. I like a glazed donut, a cruller. I like Bismarcks. I even like pseudo donuts, like Danishes and stuff like that. But cake donuts, never liked them. And I don't care whether they're saturated with icing sugar or whether it's the cinnamon granulated sugar. I just don't like cake donuts. So there was a point in my life in, I guess close to my mid 30s, maybe not quite my mid 30s, where I was making some changes in my life, some big changes. And I'm not going to get into the details of the story, but suffice to say that up to that point, I'd had some struggles, and yeah, life and it all kind of came to a head, and life wasn't going so good. So I was working really hard to make some changes in my life, and you know what, things were turning around, right? And it was frustrating, it was difficult, it was all that stuff. But so at one point, maybe about 9 months in or 6 months in or something into changing my life, my grandparents called and they had to come to a wedding, and they asked me if they could spend the weekend with me. So they had to come into the city from out in the small town that they were living in. And the significance of that, wasn't lost on me, right? So I mean, I'd grown up with them, and throughout most of my life, they probably wouldn't have asked to stay with me, because what the truth is, I wasn't very dependable. I was kind of volatile, and so them asking me was kind of an indication that maybe I was on the right track, and things were turning around for me, and life was getting better. So they came to stay with me, right? And they were, I think, I'm not sure if my grandpa was 80 yet. I don't think he was, but they were both well into their 70s. And so, so I did some things, like the apartment I was in was kind of cold, and it was November, right? And or late October or something like that. So I got an electric blanket for them, so that they could, be nice and warm in bed and all that stuff. And really, look forward to the possibility that I'd be able to, pay back the things they'd done for me throughout my life, that, to be honest with you, I never appreciated until I got older. And so in, my along comes the weekend. My grandparents come to the door, and what's my grandma got? A package of cake donuts, and not just cake donuts like the worst possible, in the styrofoam container with the cellophane wrap from like the Edson IGA, right? So, and she's like, "Oh, here, I bought you some donuts," and I'm looking at him like, "Oh, thank you," right? And I knew right away, like, oh, I hate these bloody things, right? So the weekend went really well. My grandparents stayed over, and we had dinner together, and some meals and stuff like that, and other meals, and I'd gotten some older movies from the library for us to watch, because I didn't have cable, and TV was kind of lousy compared to, and we really, it was a nice weekend. It wasn't anything dramatic or anything like that, but it was just nice and pleasant, and I got the impression that they enjoyed themselves, and they went on to the wedding that they were going to, and yeah, so Monday rolls around, and so I come home from work, and and I look at these cake donuts sitting on the counter, right? And they'd been opened up because my grandparents each had a donut. I didn't, because I don't like the things, right? And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, ah, Jesus Christ, what a waste of money! That, why did she get me these? I've never liked these bloody things. And I'm like, geez, I'll just throw them in the garbage. She could have just taken that money and thrown it in the damn garbage. And as I'm going through this, because, I mean, I caught myself thinking this stuff, and I thought, wow, what the hell's wrong with me? Like, here my grandmother, so let me be honest with you. My grandmother wasn't the kind of person who could say I love you easily, right? I mean, that generation, it was pretty tough, at least for some. I mean, different people are different, but she couldn't say I love you very easily. But instead, she could here were these cake donuts that were her way of saying, Quinn, you're important to me. In fact, you're so important to me that when I'm at the store and I'm going to come see you in the near future and I see something that I think you'll like, I'll get it for you and bring it to show you that I care about you, and I felt really embarrassed that I was so uptight over these cake donuts, right? Like, and I thought about it and thought, wow, I've got some growing to do. I mean, if I can't accept this gesture of love from my grandmother. So in the end, I was meeting up with some friends that evening, and so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna bring these donuts to that meeting, and whoever wants them, they can have them. And if there's a few left afterwards, someone can take them home or whatever. And lo and behold, I did. And I mean, there's plenty of other people who just absolutely loved the donuts and they were happy. And, oh, thank you, and all that. But it was an important life lesson for me, and it showed that here I was, almost in my mid-30s, and I still had some growing up to do, right? And so those are some of the stories of life, right? So if you want to leave a comment, maybe let me know of maybe some of the growing up that you had to do, if you've experienced maybe something of this yourself.